Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Got a couple of Centurion games for you today. The Centurion Mark 7, my favourite tank in the game. For a long time, my favourite tank in the game was the M46 Patton, American Tier 9 medium. And all the reasons why I love the M46 Patton: good gun depression, powerful gun. Look at the gun depression on the Centurion. The good mobility. I really do feel as if there isn't really any one particular feature on the M46 that the Centurion Mark 7 doesn't do as well, and in most cases do better. Neither tank really relies on its armour, but in the case of the Centurion 7, it's got an incredibly troll gun mantlet that can bounce shots from any tank in the game. Neither tank is particularly quick, although the M46 does have a slightly faster top speed than the Centurion, but both tanks have got a lot of grunt in the engine. They move from standing still up to full speed very, very quickly, forward and back. So when it comes to armour protection and mobility, both tanks are fairly similar. Neither of them have particularly good armour, but the Centurion does come out ahead in that it does have a fantastic gun mantlet. The Patton has the edge as far as mobility is concerned. They both handle very, very similarly, but the Patton does have a higher top speed. But when it comes to the gun, it's just no contest. Not that the gun on the M46 Patton is bad. Both 105mm guns on these two tanks have a respectable amount of alpha damage, but the accuracy on the Patton's 105mm gun is terrible. The accuracy and the aiming time on the Centurion's 105mm gun is fantastic. And unlike the M46 Patton, the Centurion, along with the Leopard prototype, gets to use APCR ammunition as standard. That armour-piercing composite rigid ammunition, which is premium ammo on most tanks, but is standard ammo on Tier 10 medium tanks, is also standard ammo on the Centurion 7. And the benefit of that means, well, higher penetration, and you don't have to lead your shot as much, because APCR ammo exits the barrel at a much, much higher velocity, so it's easier to hit your targets with this ammunition. Also, unlike the Patton, there are two viable guns that you can use on the Centurion 7.1. The 90mm gun on the Patton is clearly inferior in almost every category other than rate of fire to the Patton's 105mm gun. Here on the Centurion, the 20-pounder gun that this 105mm gun arguably replaces is not necessarily a bad gun either. And for a long time I carried on using the 20-pounder gun, even after I'd unlocked this 105mm. The DPM on the 20-pounder is superior to the DPM on the 105. What you get with the 105 is better penetration and better alpha damage. And alpha damage is kind of important on this tank. In the same way that, you know, the 105mm gun on the Patton is a really good gun on that tank, because neither of these tanks have very good armour. Both tanks have a lot of grunt in the engine. They're very, very quick and good at poking out, taking a shot, and rolling back into cover very, very, very quickly. Now, both tanks are very good at doing that, and if you're going to do that, you need a gun that supports that playstyle. So you need something that aims quickly. You need to snap the shot and then roll back into cover after having delivered a big punch. So you need good alpha damage. Both guns do qualify. The only drawback with the Patton is that due to the terrible accuracy of the M46's 105mm gun, you can only really be consistently good at doing that at short range. Not so on the Centurion. The accuracy of this gun means that you can use that tactic all across the battlefield. The only real drawback with the Centurion's gun is that the DPM, the damage per minute, is not that good. The reload is very, very slow. And unfortunately for me here, that would have been perfect, but the SU-12254 driver was lightning fast in getting his tracks repaired. He did exactly the right thing, used his repair kit, denied me the opportunity of getting around his flank, and was able to put 2 shots into me before I finished him off. And that cost me a lot of health. So, you know, I've taken some hits, but I'm still well and truly in the game. We're being capped, but we have tanks threatening the cap, and I'm now around the flank of the enemy team, and have an opportunity to try to get around them, and that's when I spot this IS. Now, this guy appears to be AFK, and in retrospect, Yeah, I just took a big hit from their artillery. And that probably wasn't a smart move. Forgetting that artillery was in play, getting tunnel vision, put a shot into the IS, he's not moving. Unfortunately, even though he's AFK, he's still there, and an AFK tank can still spot you, so I cannot go directly up around the ridge. The IS will spot me coming over. The tanks that I'm trying to get the drop on will see me coming, so instead I figure I'll go around, and with any luck catch myself some artillery on the way. Now, judging from the angle that that artillery shot came in, he's more than likely up on that little piece of high ground next to the enemy, well, where the enemy base would be if this wasn't an encounter game. So Foch, my platoon mate, has just nailed that IS, and that IS is no longer going to be in a position to spot me if I come around this corner. So Foch, you're going to see later, is also driving a Centurion 7, but his is almost completely stock. Now this wasn't a bad enemy team at all. That T69 obviously doesn't want his team to get outflanked by a Centurion 7-1, so he comes back to try to pinpoint me. Took a hit from the left over there, so I fall back. So only the T69 is going to be in a position to shoot me. And I'll wait for him to poke. Got him. Unfortunately, this is where I get a little overconfident. I see the E75 and I start tunnel visioning on the E75. I completely didn't notice the AMX-50 Foch. And that's all she wrote. The Foch, you'll note, was one of the first tanks I engaged when I came around the corner, and he got away. I didn't finish him off. Ended up coming back, biting me in the arse. Circumflexes is dead. Sir Foch is the only remaining member of our platoon, and his Centurion is 100% completely stock. He's got the stock turret, the stock engine. He's using the 20-pounder gun. But, you know, I can't complain. 4 kills, 3,500 damage done, that I know of. And even if the AMX-50 Foch hadn't hit me, the E75 was aiming at me and there was no cover, nowhere for me to go. Sir Foch here in his badly beaten up, almost 100% completely stock Centurion Mark 7, he's got a hell of a mountain to climb. Now, it's probably fair to say that at this point during the live stream on Circumflex's Twitch channel, myself and Circon are both dead, and we're just watching Foch drive around the map here in his stock Centurion 7, and we were giving him so much shit. You know, no pressure, Foch. You know, you bring your you bring your stock Centurion into a tier 9 battle. It's not like the entire game's riding on your shoulders at this point or anything. And you know, this may have even been the first time he drove this tank. I'm not entirely sure, but he can't have played more than 2 or 3 games in it up to this point. But what you're going to see, even stock, the Centurion 7-1 is a fearsome tank. Of course, it doesn't hurt that Foch is also a very, very good World of Tanks player. So now he's advancing into the same spot where I got taken out. And he's got his sights very firmly set on finishing the job that I couldn't do and taking out the artillery. Checks to the left. The enemy team have just lost their Foch, that's good news. Spots the artillery, snaps a shot. The 20-pounder doesn't have the alpha damage to take the artillery out. Artillery does the sensible thing, cliff dives, gets out of his line of fire. But now Foch is in a tricky position, because they know where he is now. Now he doesn't have a lot of time to decide what to do here, but while the Tortoise is engaged with the M103 and the E75 is on the opposite side of the hill, he's got to kill this GW Panther, so he's no longer being spotted and he can plan his next attack. Unfortunately, his first shot misses, and then he was undeniably lucky there. Point blank range shot from a GW Panther right into the side of his tank, and it didn't kill him. But the threat is now removed, he's no longer being spotted, he can now afford to take his time. The M103's killed the Tortoise, he's now fighting off the E75. Both artillery and the M103 hit the E75, reduce him to really low health. The E75 finishes off the M103, and he's now sitting in the cap circle. Now the E75 does not have a lot of health, but neither does Foch. So this is going to come down to who gets the first effective shot in. And Foch is using the 20-pounder gun, and it has a very, very, very fast aiming time. And it doesn't miss. Not bad for a stock tank. So how about that 20-pounder gun? I mean, is it really a viable alternative to using the 105mm? And yeah, I think it is. The choice of gun that you use on this tank dictates the playstyle that the tank is going to excel at. If you're using the 20-pounder, you should probably be playing the tank as a sniper. It doesn't mean you can't play it as a flanking medium, but you're better off playing it as a sniper. If you're using the 105mm gun, you're better off playing the tank as a flanking medium. Again, it doesn't mean you can't play the tank as a sniper. It's very accurate, it aims very quickly, but it's more suited to popping out, banging that shot off, and then popping back in. In this game, I'm using the 20-pounder, and I'm first using it on this Batchat driver who appears to be suffering from a sudden rush of shit to the brain. I have no idea what he thought was going to happen doing that, but hey, I'm not going to complain. He just gave me my first kill and my first couple of 100 points of damage. The DPM of the 20-pounder gun is very, very good. The rate of fire is phenomenal, far better on the Centurion 7 than on the Centurion 1. Where this gun does suffer a little is in penetration and alpha damage. It's a 20-pounder gun, not a 105mm gun. The alpha damage is roughly equivalent to one of the German 88mm guns. The penetration is not great, it's 226mm, but the gun is accurate enough to hit weak spots at pretty much any kind of range too. And even if it misses the weak spot at long range, it reloads so quickly that it doesn't really matter. Have another go. You're going to hit him sooner or later. You definitely really don't want to be using the Centurion 7.1 with a 20-pounder gun to play the traditional role of the fast flanking, brawling medium tank. The alpha damage will just let you down. It doesn't do enough damage up front. You shouldn't really be doing it in the Centurion 7.1 with the 105mm gun unless you know that the next shot you fire is going to take out your target, because you have no armour. Unless you can get this thing hull down and use the gun mantlet and gun depression, you can't reliably rely on bouncing any shots whatsoever from the kind of tanks that are going to be shooting back at you. The ideal position for this tank with this gun, the 20-pounder, is pretty much this. Second line sniper support tank, putting consistent, accurate and effective long range fire into the flanks of enemy tanks that have been spotted and detected by other tanks for you. The DPM that this gun is capable of tossing out is nothing short of spectacular. And sure, that's an ideal situation for any tank to be in, but there are not many tanks in the game as good as exploiting this kind of situation as the Centurion 7.1 with the 20-pounder gun. Just look at that rate of fire. And the alpha damage of 230 is not a lot, but it adds up over time, and it adds up very, very quickly indeed if this tank is left in this kind of position where it can continue pouring fire into enemy tanks that don't know where it is, or that have what they consider to be more important targets to shoot at. And yeah, you'll get a lot of bounces, but you'll get enough that go through for that damage to really, really start to add up very, very quickly indeed. And this was a good game in the Centurion 7.1 with a 20-pounder gun, and it could have been a spectacular game. Unfortunately, our team were more interested in farming loser points in the cap circle than actually getting out there and earning credits and XP. This was just, it was one of those games that was good, but could have been great. Couldn't ask for better targets. And if you ever get a tank, any tank, into the kind of position where you're just firing the gun over and over and over and doing damage over and over and over, as I'm doing here with this gun and that monster rate of fire, well, 3,000 damage isn't bad, but this could easily have been 5,000. And that for me is what makes the Centurion 7.1 such an incredibly flexible tank. There is no one best gun on this machine. It depends entirely on how you want to play the tank. Unlike the M46 pattern, where most people will tell you you want to be using the 105mm gun over the 90mm, no questions asked, any day of the week. The choice of gun that you're going to use on the Mark 7 Centurion depends entirely on how you plan on playing the tank. Both of them have their uses, and the fact that you can use the 20-pounder gun on the tank to such devastating effect means that this is one of the least painful stock grinds in the game, and one of the reasons why I absolutely adore my Centurion Mark 7. As always folks, take care on that battlefield, and I'll catch you next time.